Hey guys, and welcome to the 30 Days to Happiness podcast. We are back with round 2 with Ryan. Woohoo! The first one was so amazing. We talked a lot about, how we can connect to ourselves and healing those, childhood wounds. And this time round, we're going to have an amazing conversation because so much has happened. We've just talked about this off camera today. So much has happened since we talked last, and I feel like, Ryan, you've just stepped into your divine purpose and you're so in alignment. It takes years and years and years sometimes to feel in alignment, but taking that one step every single, day or week. How are you feeling at the moment? What's been happening?
Yeah, I feel good. Like I said, I'm excited to get into this. I think it was almost a year ago we did our first podcast. So it's like, and since then, both of us have gone through some deep initiations, and really excited to share a bit more about that journey. And I think just after we did our podcast, I moved to Bali, and that was like, from then things really, in a way hit the fan.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, in a way, one of the, I know looking back, will be one of the most karmic, life-changing experiences that have really put me on the path of like who I am today and who I'm becoming and the level of impact that I'm now going to move towards creating in the world. So excited to speak more into that. Yeah.
Oh, love that. So tell us what you do at the moment. Like, who are you helping? I know you're a coach, and then I think that will nicely stem to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so I've got a program called the Inspired Man Project. So I'm creating this movement for men to really have a safe space to really awaken into their true power. And what that looks like is for men to really connect with the deepest parts of themselves and really step into their most authentic expression of their most powerful self. So the king and the warrior archetypes. Wow. In order for a man to step into that, he then creates a safe space within the world for women to feel safe, to be led by healthy masculine. So a big part of what I do is actually for the safety of women to actually be fully expressed. But it comes back to men being in their power. And everything that comes with that is men being on purpose, being on their mission, being in a position to financially provide for a partner, for a family.
Yeah. Not
Not necessarily being the sole providers, but it's the energy of like, I can take care of you.
Yeah,
It's men really awakening into that power that they've suppressed for so fucking long. And I know, like, when I've stepped into that myself, and the more I step into it, the more I've been able to literally just through my presence with a woman, or even other men, they just feel safe to be themselves. And that's a big part of my mission is that collective change in the world and in relationship dynamics. And with all of that comes business, purpose, mission, relationships. So it's all of that. I've been doing this for about just over a year and a half.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years now, and full time. And I've been working with men all over the world, helping them with this exact thing. And before that, I spent 5 years in the personal training industry. Before that, I was a carpenter. I ran a successful carpentry business at the age of 21, 22 years old. So it's been a journey, and it's been a massive journey of just awakening for the last 5 years of just into my deepest self. And this is everything I teach is just the embodiment of what I've gone through as a man. And that's really helped me step into my power, going from a depressed tradie working on the job site where I literally thought that there was nothing else than this is what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. Like, this is it.
Wow.
And I literally thought that there's no way, like, it's too late. I can't learn anything else. Like, at 22, I was like, I'm done. Like, this is it. Like, the only way to be successful is to become a really hardworking builder. Like, that was the only model that I had in my mind of success. So to go from that to where I am today has been a massive journey. And I'm so genuinely blessed to be able to every single day share that with other men and help them really deepen into themselves so they can also create that life as well. Because I'm so grateful. Every single day I wake up, it's pretty surreal. Yeah.
That's so cool. I think I remember you shared something on your story, I think it was a few weeks ago, and this is when you were in Melbourne, and you were watching this couple, and the guy was like, where do you want to sit? And she's like, I don't know. And you're just talking about how, like, you know, men need to lead women in a specific way. So I wanted to go more into the energetic side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does it mean to be masculine as a man or feminine as a woman? Like, what is the king and warrior kind of archetypes? Can you tell us more about what that means? Because it's such a huge thing that have just kind of all of a sudden come up in the last year, I feel. Like, people are like, oh, you know, king energy, or, you know, like queen energy to run your business and earn more money. Like, and there's so much on social media. So I just want you to kind of like simplify it for the people who don't really know or don't really get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, it's really cringe to see as well. There's a lot of fake shit out there, especially, you know, in the whole feminine sales, queen energy thing. It's it's like trying to sell on the fucking hype of women being, in a way, disconnected from their actual true feminine heart and expression.
Wow.
And being in this, like, in a way, avoidant feminine energy, where they're actually, in a way, suppressing their true expression, and they're doing it for a return on investment, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
So it's not legit. It's not like I'm doing this to be the full expression of myself and therefore build a business around that. It's like, I'm going to be perceived this way so I can make more sales and be better in my business.
Interesting.
So that's what I've seen. And, you know, masculine and feminine, like it's been around for a long time. Like, it's become, like, you know, with the red pill, blue pill community, it's become very, you know, mainstream in the last couple of years. So my take on it is quite different to most. And it's that I'm not pro anything. Like, I'm not going to tell a man to be more masculine or a woman to be more feminine. I'm going to help them step into their authentic self, right? So 80% of women are typically more in their core feminine, right? 80% of men, 90% of men are typically more masculine at their core. Reason being is because there's sexual polarity. There's attraction. When there's two opposites, there's a positive and negative, there's attraction, which is sexual polarity. And without that, we wouldn't be attracted to each other to recreate as humans. So we're actually designed that way. And if you look out in nature is always coming back to balance and symmetry.
Interesting.
Right? So us as humans, there's the balance and symmetry of the masculine and feminine. So it's most of all, I don't teach men to become more masculine or women to become more feminine. I teach them to discover who they were born to be at their core, their actual true expression and their true essence, and to fucking be that fully in the world. Yeah. And typically for women, that power is more in their feminine expression and energy, because that's how they're wired. Like that's who they are at their core. And most men typically it's the connection to the deep masculine, the warrior, the king, the leadership archetype. And so yeah, you know, it's coming back to the absolute essence of who you are actually born to be at your core, not shaped to be by society or, you know, a lot of women with father wounds have placed themselves in a box where they have to be perfect or, you know, they have to be the good girl and stuff like that. And they minimize their expression, their sexual expression. And then because of that, it then comes out in leaky shadow ways and whatnot.
Yeah, wow.
And then same with men as well. A big thing with men is the mother wound, the disconnection between, you know, their emotions and whatnot. But basically the best way to describe this, I feel, is coming back to the absolute of the energies, right? Yeah. So the masculine and feminine, it's the polar opposites, and we need the balance in life. Yeah. And there's a bit of a touchy topic, but there's like, looking in society, there's evidence that they're trying to create this disconnection in the connection, the sexual polarity of the man and the woman, right? So we don't want to procreate because of the overpopulation.
Yeah, there's so much. Hey, and I was going to touch on that sore point for some, because I was at Soak with a friend. If anyone doesn't know who Soak is, you just pretty much soak in magnesium pills. It's like the best thing. Yeah. And we're just talking, and I was like, this might be a soft point for some, and I don't know enough, obviously, because I'm not in the gay or lesbian space. But we were talking about those who are in a relationship, because we were talking how, you know, we equal each other as a man and woman with our feminine and masculine energy. Mm-hmm. But how does a relationship work for those who are of the same sex? How do they balance each other out? How do they go, I guess, being there for the moments and kind of balancing out the other parts of the other person that they don't have and they weren't born to, you know, I don't know how to really explain this, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, they don't have that because that's not who they are, and that because they're a man, and same with a woman. Like, how does that even work, or does it just not work?
So Tony Robbins speaks about this.
Does he?
What he's actually done at previous events is, I've heard that he's gotten gay, lesbian couples to stand up.
Yeah.
And people go, who's more of the man in this relationship? And it's always obvious. There's more of the masculine, and then there's more of the feminine, and that's why it works. And it's awesome. Okay. Like, they can be in relationship, and that's incredible. And you know, I'm not against it at all. Like amazing. Like, I love people who are in love. It's incredible. You know, but it's going to work most when there is the polarity of energy. Okay. Yeah. So even with men, you know, there's I've heard different expressions in the gay men's space, you know, being friends with some men that are in that space, and it's, you know, they've told me absolutely it doesn't work if there's not that polarity of who's more of the man and who's the receiver.
Yeah, there has to be a defined definition. I think that's how they make it work, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Like, I started learning all about this quite a few years ago, and coming from someone who has quite masculine energy when it comes to like running my business, when I'm on that side of things. And I didn't notice that until I was like, got into like the relationship with my husband, and I realized, because he is a man, like he's a man, you know, like king energy, like, you know, wants to provide for his family. That's his purpose. And coming out of a relationship before that with someone who was just like, not like, just had no drive, nothing, right? And I think that's why I felt like I had to, like, you know, man up myself, because there was no one leading the relationship. So I carried that energy, and I guess from having lots of male mentors in my life, which are awesome, still do, I've carried this masculine energy in a way. And it wasn't until I got into the relationship with my husband and realized that when I'm with him, I need to step back. I need to remove myself from the masculine energy, not remove myself, but, you know, take a step back and let him be in his masculine energy when he's around me. And it wasn't until I understood that and made the conscious effort to do so, our relationship just flourished, because he was able to feel, you know, like he was the leader, like he could protect me, you know, just like, you know, the human instincts. And I found myself, I could be more vulnerable. And it was actually really interesting. I saw something on TikTok, and they were explaining how those who are truly, like, you know, deeply in love can be childlike around each other. And I actually feel like when you are in your right energy and you are aware of that, you're able to be childlike and be stupid and be funny and just be like, if anyone else saw this would be embarrassing kind of feelings. But I know you just said off the camera that something crazy just happened in Melbourne, and you just feel like opportunities are just everywhere. Tell us more.
Yeah, so being in Melbourne was a big reminder for me into coming back into balance and harmony with the masculine and feminine energy. You know, running a business where I'm serving a lot of people every week, and I'm putting in so much work to like create content and like do the things and show up and whatnot. Especially based on my past wound of, you know, needing to prove, needing to be seen and stuff like that. Could notice myself starting to fall back into that old shadow, right? And over the weekend, it was a reminder. It was more of like for me, it was like an awakening. It wasn't just, you know, I went to a personal development event. It wasn't just information. It was the energetic experience of coming back to when we are having fun and actually just being the full expression of ourselves and enjoying life and going out there and challenging ourselves, like being adventurous and stuff like that. that's where our soul's liberated. And especially as men, you know, I've been so like very easy. I can just sit in my office for 15 hours a day and just work, sit behind a screen and just like coach clients. And I can do that. But I've been neglecting the other side for a while, right? Yeah. Which is being in receivership of actually, you know, enjoying the gift of life itself. Yeah, wow. And what I realized was because I had been working so hard for the last, I don't know, however many years. I think I've been in business for like 7 or 8 years or something like that. And I kind of lost touch with, you know, my heart just wants to give and serve. Like that's my purpose. I just want to give and serve and see people happy and create that impact in the world through what I shared at the start. Yeah. And I can get very carried away with that and neglect myself in the process. And in doing so, I realized that everything I was doing was to have a return on investment. Yeah. It's like everything. If I was to catch up for coffee with someone, it was like, what's the return on investment on this? Like, what am I getting out of this? Like, you know, what's the opportunity I can create from this? Instead of just going, I just want to fucking catch up with you because I love you as a human. That I fell back into that. I lived in Bali last year and I didn't like fully experience it and take it in, you know, being back here in Australia. I'm like, why didn't I just go away for a week and just switch everything off and like go up into the mountains and just be there. And just be, or go scuba dive for a week or something like that. And I absolutely could have, you know, I have the business, the money's there. It's like absolutely could have, but I couldn't bring myself to it because I couldn't see the return on investment, right? Interesting. Yeah. So Melbourne was a big awakening to realizing how, you know, when I was working, I was doing 10, 15 hours of work a day. But the potency of that work was like a score of like a 2, right? And since then it's like, I've just like surrendered and relaxed into actually going out there and first and foremost, men need to find ways to kiss death, right? And what we did straight after that event in Melbourne is we went and climbed the tallest mountain here on the Sunshine Coast. And it was like confronting. There were some parts where it's like, if my hand slips off this rock, I am dead. Yeah. And when we got back from that, it was like, oh, like that was like,
that's living.
Let's fucking go. Like, I have so much to give now because I've like liberated my soul with this. And now like I came straight back into the week and like I did on Monday, like I did 4 hours of work and I did more in that 4 hours than I would normally do in 15 hours. And it was like the potency was a score of 10, but I worked for 4 hours. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
so
I love this.
That was like a big thing for me. But the most part of that for men especially is like actively seeking challenge because the masculine grows from challenge, overcoming challenge and being tested. Like that's how the masculine overcomes that and grows and evolves. So by me sitting in office, I was staying stagnant. And then by me actually going out there and just enjoying life and actually, you know, taking in what I've built as well by going to actually enjoy that, then
totally.
Yeah, wow. It's been,
So interesting that you bring this up because I went to a beachfront apartment like last week and I actually got to just sit there and I had this massive revelation. I feel like it's very similar to yourself. And I call this a circle, right? You see there's like a massive circle and you can call it the rut, you can call it a circle, but whatever it is. And you're stuck inside the middle and because you're fixed on the outcome. You're so focused on that one outcome that you're missing all these opportunities outside the circle because you can't physically see them because you're so attached to an outcome. And when that happens, you just keep going round and round and round in a circle. And then it leads to burnout and it leads to like not feeling in alignment. And then it leads to asking yourself, is this what I even want to do with my life? And we get so caught up. So I think the only way for us to step outside the circle and see all these other opportunities is to kind of realize, like Gay Hendricks talks about it in the, you know, the big leap, the upper limit. And I think we need to be super aware of understanding that there are more than one way to achieve something. For example, wealth, you know, there is more than one way to get to $1 million. There is more than one way to find the love of your life. There's more than one way to lose weight. There's more than one way. So when we're stuck in our own, you know, I guess, belief system as well, we miss all these opportunities. And I felt the exact same way. It wasn't until I sat there, and being a mum as well, like, I feel like there's just so much limited time to feel like for me to think clearly. And Jasmine stayed at her Grammys for a night, and it was just the best experience ever. And I went to sleep that night, and I was like, wow, I'm going to wake up a new person. And I decided that I woke up and I made a decision, and I realized that I was using Jasmine as an excuse to not reach my full potential. And I didn't know that until I went on this weekend away where I could get my head clear.
Yeah.
I could do things. We went and watched the sunrise. We did all those things that, bring you joy. And they say, for you to be happiest and raise your vibration, you got to do those things that you love to your highest potential and not expect anything from it. Just be. And I love that. So thank you for sharing.
And it takes for a level of getting out of the comfort zone as well. Because like that's the thing, as humans, we're wired to stay comfortable because comfortable is familiar, and what's familiar is safe for our nervous system. So and this is why I say, like, actively seeking challenge as a man, it grows your capacity within your nervous system to be able to hold more, to be able to take on more, and to be able to, let's say like your woman's bringing all of this stuff to you. It's like, I can hold this because I've danced with death. Like it's such an important thing for men to be able to build a relationship with. So it's like, it's in the nervous system, it builds that capacity. So, like that, like, takes that, getting outside of the normal. Yeah. And we're so wired to stay comfortable. Yeah.
Let's talk about, I guess, romantic relationships, and then just like, friendships, work colleagues, other relationships. Let's start with like romantic relationships. How can we get the most out of each other using our energy?
So romantic relationships, I feel the purpose of a romantic relationship is to help each other support in your own growth and evolution. It should be something that gives you energy. It should be something that supports your growth, whether it's painful or not. It's like whether it's, going through a breakup or whether it's being in a committed long-term relationship. Like relationships are such a catalyst to us awakening our potential and really stepping into our potential. Reason why I believe that to be true is because relationships bring us back to our childhood. And we have to deal with that childhood shit in order for a relationship to thrive. So I believe when people go back and they work with their childhood and overcome the trauma, the limitations, the programming, the conditioning, and when they overcome that and work through that, they become the full expression of themselves. And as I was saying at the start of the podcast, like our true integration of the masculine and feminine energy is just being the full expression of ourselves. So when we are that, we're then in relationship and we're both fully expressed and we're both naturally in our core energy, there's attraction and it works. Obviously, there's more things that go hand in hand with building a relationship, with communication and learning the emotional intelligence around how to navigate another human and being in relationship. But I believe it's that's why I work with a lot of, for me, relationships like the surface level. It's like because for most men, their biggest pain point is relationships. And why I believe that is they can very easily hide behind their work or their fears or their limitations or a boss or whatever. When it comes to their relationship, like it's fucking real. And I feel it's the first thing that brings them back to the pain that they experienced as a little boy. And they finally have to face it head on or avoid it, right?
That's
and at some stage face it.
Yeah. So for those who are like searching for the one, let's say, or they're searching for, that relationship or just someone that, they can spend the rest of their life with or whatever it is, whatever they're looking for, but they just can't seem to find this person. What would you say to them?
As soon as you're seeking something outside of yourself, like you're seeking to find the one, it implies that it implies that you need something outside of yourself to feel whole and complete.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as someone comes back to creating that within themselves and being so secure within themselves and whole and complete within themselves, they actually let go of the need to find the one.
That's it.
And then the one typically turns up. And a lot of the times the one is a karmic lesson. And, you know, when you're single, it's very easy to kind of hide behind your shadows and your limitations because you don't have that person there to mirror back to you.
Yeah.
So then we get into a relationship, we go, oh shit, I thought I worked on this stuff.
Yeah.
But the mirror's just there again.
Yeah.
And it's the opportunity to go within again.
Yeah.
So I feel it's as I say, like life's it's not a window, it's a mirror. It's always reflecting back to us what we haven't yet dealt with within. And yeah, I believe once we've come back to ourselves and let go of the need to find the one and truly owned it within ourselves, like Nicole LaPera wrote the book, like How to Be the Love You Seek. And to really, truly be that for yourself. It's like, then the one will come. And, you know, this is the journey I've been on. It's like, for the first time, I'm consciously not seeking or dating or opening myself sexually to women or anything like that, because I want to really cultivate that, like truly cultivate it within myself, where it's like, and I've gotten to this point within myself where I'm feeling the level of love within myself that I only thought I could experience in a relationship with an incredible woman that could love me. And I'm now experiencing that within myself, and it's phenomenal. And now I'm like, wow, now being in relationship with someone, it's like now I get to choose them and not need them. Yeah.
Choose them, not need them. It's when you need something that I feel like you step out of alignment, because then you again become attached to the outcome because you need it. You need to fill that hole within you. And when we talk about the one, whoever's listening to this, it can mean the one, I don't know, job or the one business or the one relationship. And I think the one is completely overrated because it's, again, like we talked about before, you're attached to the outcome again and again and again. And being in alignment with who you are and feeling like you are just, you know, living to your full potential, honestly, that's what's going to make you the happiest. Like for me, I know when I speak, and this is, I think, because I'm very intuitive, but when I speak or write something, I wake up at 5 o'clock and write every morning, and I speak every day. So when I write something or speak in a way that's not authentic to who I am, I don't feel the goosebumps. I don't feel that light, almost like you're drunk in a way. It's like that. I don't
know.
know.
The flow.
You're in the flow.
Yeah, you're
that's
just connected.
What it is.
Yeah.
You're connected. So how do we become our authentic selves? Like how the heck do we become in alignment with who we are? That is the real question. A lot of us, I think, don't know that that's what we need. How do we find that?
Yeah. This is why I work with a lot of relationships, because it's typically the thing that triggers people to come back to who they authentically are. Right? Because it's such a painful thing. And how I believe we come back to our authentic expression of who we truly are is coming back to who we were born to be, our childhood. And our childhood is typically, you know, it's directly reflected into relationships. That's why I work with, on the surface level, relationships, but underneath it's being fortified within yourself, like really coming back to your true self.
Fortified within yourself, guys. Write that down.
So yeah, coming back to who you are born to be, not shaped or taught to be or molded to be, right? So I do a lot of inner child work with people, you know, helping them really come back to the true, authentic expression of themselves, right? As a little boy or a little girl, like there's a lot of, majority of people are actually like grown-ass adults, but they're actually a child still within. And very interesting thing, I wasn't sure if I was going to share this or not, but before this podcast, I felt like this anxiety in my chest. Wow. I was like, interesting. And I'm happy you were late actually, because I got to sit with my little boy before you came. Yeah, like my inner child, my little boy.
I was just thinking about mine.
Yeah. And what was there, right? There was this like tightness in my chest and I was kind of like shaking a little bit. I'm like, bro, it's a podcast. What are you doing? Speaking's your thing. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I tuned in, and what I recognized was there's the little boy within me who's like scared to feel like his love that he has to give won't be received. Wow. And that was actually his deepest core wound of abandonment, of he had so much love to give and he would give so much love to mum and dad and it wasn't received because they had so much going on in their life. And that showed up just before this podcast. And to be able to sit with that, I imagined him sitting on the chair right next to me outside. And I was like, bro, let's go in this together. Like, let's have some fun. I'm here with you. It's okay. Like, and he was like, so he said to me, he was like, does that mean I can just like, I can be myself and like be out? I was like, bro, be yourself. Like that's it right there. Wow. And I changed from, being like tight in the chest and like a little bit anxious to like, let's go. Like, I'm so excited. And I can feel like my little boy is like, yeah, I get to be fully heard and seen, and I know it'll be received because I'm sharing from my heart and from this place. Yeah. So that's authentic expression. Like, and it comes back to that. If I didn't sit with him outside, I would have been maybe trying to be someone else or trying to be perceived that, a certain way. So so people hear me and receive me, and they're not gonna think I don't know what I'm talking about or anything like that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Isn't God good though? Because like I was halfway, like I was late to this, guys. And I hate being late. Like it gives me so much anxiety. Yeah. And there's obviously probably something deeper, but being late gives me a lot of anxiety. Anyway, so I drove halfway here and I was like, my hard drive. I forgot my hard drive. And Jasmine, my daughter, was playing with it yesterday while I was on a meeting. And it was at the back of in the corner of my desk and anyway, on the floor. So I drove all the way back and I was like, I'm going to be late. And I have anxiety. And I thought, life is happening for me, not to me. I'm late for a reason. Everything is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And then you got to spend time with your there we go. Little boy. Yeah. And it's really interesting that you bring that up before even we started talking about this. I just thought about like, when I talk to my inner child, and I didn't even realize this was a thing until I, kind of went deep into my childhood wounds, and I went to a psychologist for the first time, or a counselor, and she was so cool. And she's like telling her how I did all this inner child work, and she's like, you need to go back and talk to that 6-year-old you. So for me, it's when I was 6 years old, and I remember it clear as day, like thinking I shouldn't remember how much I did at 6 years old, but I did. And then the same thing happened again, when I was 12 and then 14. It's really interesting. So I love that you bring that up. So for those who are new to all this and speaking back to your childhood or your inner child, past child, how do you explain that to somebody? Because when I first heard it, I was like, what? I don't get it. Like, what does this even mean? And if people are thinking like, all right, well, maybe I can try and do this myself, what steps would you give them?
Yeah. There's two quotes. The first is heal the boy and the man will appear. That's what Tony Robbins says. Yeah. And then I don't know if anyone said this, but I just created it because I didn't hear anyone. I didn't hear anything for women, so I was like, heal the little girl and the divine woman will awaken.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool.
Yeah. And it's my inner child, my little boy, my core wound was I thought I had a great childhood. I thought things were incredible. And I actually felt a little bit of guilt as well because I had everything. Like I grew up racing motocross, a very expensive sport. Things were great. And that was me trying to protect myself from what was actually real. And in there was actually this 4-year-old little boy that just was seeking for mum and dad's attention and love and consistent nurturing and knowing that they're always there no matter what. And I wasn't met with that because they had their own stuff going on, right? And with that, as a little boy, like a little child, we're egocentric. So the world revolves around us and it has to, so we can get our needs met. And we're very as a child, we're like black and white thinking. Yeah. It's this or that. So it's like, they either love me or they don't.
Yeah.
There's no understanding.
Yeah.
There's no rational mind, or that hasn't developed yet.
Yeah.
And what happens is we actually build we develop this disconnection from our heart and our head at a young age. So basically, as a little boy, I didn't get that. So I was like, well, obviously who I am is not good enough to be loved. So I must be someone else. Must be perceived. I must do everything in my power in order to be loved. Right? This is where I became a people pleaser, the real nice guy. I'll make sure I do everything perfect so people love me. Yeah. Right? Because if someone's upset with me, then they might leave. So it's the abandonment wound. It's the fear of the people I love most abandoning me and leaving me. Right? So that little boy was, then seeking attention, approval, validation from, it turned from mum and dad to women. It turned from, mum and dad to creating success. So there's an unconscious level, create success so dad would be proud of me. And there's so many little boys walking around in grown-ass man's bodies today. Yeah. And for the longest time, like that was me. So my deepest awakening. So I'd done quite a lot of this over the last 5-6 years. Yeah. But my real awakening with this was like, I'd done a lot of the work consciously. And the reason I share this story is because there's a difference between, there's 3 levels of learning. The first one is like knowing something, like you know about something, right? And the next one is you understand something. So it's like, you know it, you understand it, and that's it. Like those 2 things are of the head, right? The third one is what most people miss, and that's embodiment, like actually becoming it and embodying the experience of it. So for me, I'd consciously done a lot of this work, but I was still lacking the embodiment because I was scared to actually go into what's there. And this is why it's important that we work with someone through it, because we actually need to go in and feel the grief. I had to go in and feel the grief of a little boy, the shame and the grief of a little boy who didn't think he was worthy enough of being loved. So the shame that comes with that for a boy to go, well, I must be something else and step away from who I am, like that. It's called toxic shame. And then therefore living a life of a lie, right? My whole life has been this mask, wearing these different masks, the people pleaser, right? To keep everyone happy so they stay around, the rescuer, because if I rescue people, then they'll stay around. All of these different masks that then came out, all these different toxic ways, toxic patterns. Manipulation was a massive one. Try and manipulate situations so I got what I want, to get my needs met. So until we go back and meet the needs of our inner child, it'll play out in these toxic patterns, and it typically shows up in relationships. Yeah. Massive one is narcissistic behavior. That was me. I totally own that, right? Because there was a little boy within me that was just adamant to get his needs met. And that's right. We will stay at the psychological level of a 4-year-old until we actually go back and meet the needs of that 4-year-old and allow him to feel the grief and shame that's there. Right. So until then, I was actually in relationship as a 25-year-old, in relationship as a 4-year-old at the psychological level of a 4-year-old that was like needing to have his needs met because he was avoiding the shame of I'm not good enough to actually be loved. Yeah. And then what typically happens is, to reflect that back to me, I would attract emotionally unavailable women into my life that couldn't actually love me or open up to me. Right. So it takes for us to be guided by someone to actually go in and feel the grief and shame and the pain that's there. Yeah. And unfortunately, it took for me, fortunately, because it's awakened me into this deeper level of embodiment, because I knew it, I understood it, but I hadn't actually fully felt the grief that this little boy had taken the whole world on his shoulders. Yeah. And that then leads us into Bali last year, where the woman, the love of my life, like this woman that I was, revolved my whole life around, abandoned me in a foreign country, like left. And totally, like, I understand it wasn't like, she's going through her stuff, and it was perfect. It was exactly what needed to happen. And in that moment, I was this little boy, finally had to have the bus run him over for him to finally take this space and create this space to feel the amount of grief that he actually had on his heart, that then came out in toxic patterns and behaviors. So until we go back and actually feel that, and ever since then last year, I've been ever since working with coaches and mentors to actually feel and process as a 4-year-old little boy. So even coming into here, I was like, like that's the work, and it's a constant everyday checking in with him.
Yeah, wow.
You know, yesterday evening, like I you know, there's some things going on in our household right now, and he's feeling a little bit lonely, and you know, I checked in with him, and he finally was allowed to cry and express what he didn't know how to back then, because he needed to be a certain way in order to keep love around. So this is the power of learning this stuff and embodying this stuff, because it's like, until we do, and the incredible part is we actually get to be the people who go back and meet the needs that they didn't, you know, that person wasn't there for them. So it's and with that comes our full authentic expression. Yeah.
I love that. Well said. Well said. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate your authenticity. That's one of my core values. So when I see anyone else who is living authentically and showing up authentically, makes me so happy. So you just went through a breakup, you know, I don't know how long ago it was now, but I know you mentioned brotherhood was really important, you know, that helped you get through it. Going back and actually healing what was already there, but you didn't know what was happening at the time. I think that's huge. But for those people who are going through a breakup, like, what would you say to them? Like, how do we get out of that kind of like negative headspace that we're in when we remove ourselves from that relationship? For me personally, I think for my first, you know, the first relationship's always like hardcore, because you're like, oh my gosh, the love of my life is gone. But this one was like super, like removing myself from a narcissistic relationship I felt stuck in. So for me, every single Wednesday I would go boxing, and that was my celebration. I used to tell myself, 1 week without him, I can do this. And that was like my celebration. Another book that really helped me was The Heart of the Soul. I don't know who wrote it, but anyway, doing body scans and feeling like, all right, I feel anxiety in my chest. I feel sick in my stomach. What does this mean? You know, I've got a headache here. And just being okay and letting go and saying, it's going to be okay. I'm okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And not shoving the emotions under the rug, which I was used to growing up. And I think as well, like, again, I was attracting the same kind of narcissistic person again and again and again in different bodies. So crazy. And I just thought, surely this is the last person I'm going to attract. And it opened my eyes to see that, you know, some other family members were actually very narcissistic, and I'm finally at a place where I'm extremely aware of it. I didn't shove them underneath the rug, and I'm on top, and I'm only allowing people into my life because I'm aware of who I want into my life, coming out of that situation. But anyway, what are your processes and steps for getting through a breakup?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I'll share what I've done. You know, so the very first thing for me, so I'll paint the picture a little bit. So I was in Bali in a foreign country, and this woman that I devoted my whole life to had literally just packed up and walked out. And I was in this empty villa by myself. Like, we were living in Bali last year, and I was just in this empty villa, and this little boy had no other option but to face himself. I remember going through like full body, like panic attacks, shakes, like, and I'd done enough work to realize and know this is what's actually happening. This is not me. This is the little 4-year-old that's kicking and screaming based on, you know, what he experienced when mum and dad separated. And I recognized that, and I was like, okay, I got to lean into this, because this is me actually feeling the grief that's already there. See, the thing is, typically when we go through a breakup, the breakup is actually the trigger for us to feel the grief that we already had on our heart. And sometimes the grief that potentially was the reason why the relationship didn't work, right? So that grief that I had on my heart of what I experienced as a little boy were a lot of the things that actually, in a way, you know, in the part that I played, made things worse or pushed her away in a way, right? So I recognize, okay, this is the space where I get to lean in and actually feel the grief that's been built up around my heart. And the first thing I knew to do was to invest into a coach or a mentor who I'm deeply inspired and that I'm really drawn towards that like, yeah, I'm like inspired by their embodiment, how they show up as a man. Very first thing I did, it was literally the day after I got on a call with him, and I was like, dude, all in, let's go. 15K, boom, down.
Wow.
Let's go. Like, I know that I need someone to hold my hand through this. And not just hold my hand through this, but it was like, I need someone to be the light for me, to shine the light, help me shine the light on all of this grief and all of this pain. And so I don't have to recreate this or go through this again or put anyone else through pain. Because until we heal our own shadows and wounds, we're just going to continue projecting that pain onto our loved ones. And this is it. It was like a fucking line in the sand. And for me, it was like the deepest karmic lesson, because like the love that I had for this woman was like no other. Wow. And it was the most painful thing I had to go through. Fortunately, I went through to be painful enough to actually kind of crack open the grief that was like caked around my heart and had been like stuck. So it was like enough to just like crack it open. And when a heart cracks open, like a heartbreak, it's cracking us open to the love that we are able to actually fully experience by giving to ourselves first.
Wow.
And
awesome.
So that was the first thing. So investing into a coach and mentor that can actually guide me through the healing process and journey. The most important thing was having the right brothers around me. Like, I can't express that enough. If anything, the whole thing taught me how important it is for men to have not just brothers or boys, right? Other unhealed boys that are, oh bro, just get on Tinder or anything like that. It was men that were like, they're on mission, they're on purpose. They're like true kings and leaders that I look up to, right? And we have a weekly brotherhood where it was like every couple of days we were getting on a Zoom call, and they were like holding me, supporting me, allowing me to just fucking cry and be held by these men. And it was a realization and healing for me, because when a little boy feels that he needs to be a certain way to get love, and he has the abandonment wound, he typically turns to women very easily for support. That was one of my biggest downfalls, was I would turn to women to lean on them for support, because I could very easily go to them. It was very easy. It was very hard to go to men. I didn't trust men. It was like, I can just, because what I wanted was, in a way, when we as men turn to women very easily, we want to be held. And typically it's a little boy that wants to be held. But when we turn to men, we don't get held. What we do is we get challenged.
Yeah.
So being around the right brothers, they also equally challenge and hold you and support you. So there's a very difference between a man bringing a problem to a woman and bringing a problem to a man. When a man brings his problems to other men, it's like they're shoulder to shoulder, side by side. They're in it together and they get to move through it together. It's like, let's go through this, brother. Like, I'm here to support you. Let's fucking go. When you bring it to a woman, it's like I want you to hold me. I want to express. I want to I want you to, in a way, like a little boy just wants to be held. And that was me for a long time. So I neglected brotherhood, because we would do everything in our power to be loved. Right. And I was still at the level of a 4-year-old of like, I just wanting to be loved. So I neglected brotherhood. Wow. And it was a big awakening for me. So big theme for me this year is brotherhood and being around brothers.
I think that's what would drive you to help as many people as possible to heal and receive brotherhood. I think that's really interesting you bring that up, because most of my clients are men. And that makes me think, they feel more comfortable talking to a woman. They feel like they can, be their childlike self maybe. And I had someone on LinkedIn say, hey, let's jump on a call. I'd love to work with you, blah, blah, blah. I just, from the past experiences, I have received working with a woman a lot more beneficial. Interesting. And then when you bring that up, it kind of explains a lot.
Yeah. Men need, you look back at like the Knights at the Round Table. And, when I went to Melbourne the other week, it was just another reminder of, I was in a room full of lions, full of kings, full of men who are doing it, who are embodied in it. And it was just a reminder of like, men need this. And so it's been a big intention for mine. And obviously, you know, all of these things happen as a karmic reason for me to, yet again, it's like this, you're on the right path. Like you're doing the right work with men. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So, but yeah, you know, a big thing for me was neglecting brotherhood. So coming back to, it was so investing into a mentor and having brotherhood, like having those, if you're a woman, it's having like real sisters around, not the girls, not women, sisters that can hold you, sisters who have been through it before, who you know, are gonna, you know, hold you through your stuff, but also call you out on your shit as well. And it's having that. I know so many women don't have that. It's crazy. Or it's very far the other way where they're just so off with the fairies, where they're so disconnected actually.
Yeah.
So it's like finding that integrated group of sisterhood as well. And in doing so, you have to heal the brother and sister wounds that come with being in those kinds of groups. So then the next thing I did was, while being held, while being, you know, given the tools to move through this painful grief and suffering that I was going through, it was then also focusing on the things that empowered me as well. Getting back into training, right? I went back to the gym, right, after about 2 months off because I couldn't bring myself to even just go to the gym. So it was like going to the gym was like, you know, I'm at least if I just squat with an empty barbell, I'm happy. That's all. That's it. That's all I care about. I just want to move my body. And then it's slowly just getting back into things that really empower me, make me feel good, which was building successful business, impacting people, helping, serving. And I just directed my energy into that as well as doing the healing.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for today, Ryan. You are honestly one of the most amazing people I know, and you're in an alignment and helping so many people. So continue to do that because it's important. And for those who are listening, we've just launched our happiness formula community. I've decided to give away my whole formula completely for free. So if you're listening to this and you're wanting to join, I guess, a sisterhood, a brotherhood, of just like-minded people where you can leverage off for accountability purposes and discipline and learning, you know, the step-by-step process to actually building the life you know you're actually here to live. We would love you to join us inside the community. And Ryan, I'd love you to join us in there because I know you will be so valuable and great networking opportunities as well for you. So I'll leave the link in the description. But any last words, Ryan?
First of all, super grateful for this. You have me on again. And if anyone's going through, if like any of that resonated with you, like all I would say is before it gets painful enough that you have to change, it's like, you know, a lot of people will stay sitting on the nail until it's painful enough. So you can choose to get off that nail right now.
Oh, I like that.
So it's, if any of it resonated, it's reaching out to any of us for like support, guidance, anything. Just do something to get off the nail.
Yeah. And if you want more help, guys, with this kind of like, you know, finding that brotherhood and healing your childhood wounds, then please reach out to Ryan. Where can people find you?
Instagram and Facebook is my main source. So at Ryan Moresby White, that'll probably be in the show notes. I post heaps of free value and just send a message. I'm an open book, ask questions, connect with me. Would love to chat.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming on once again.
Thank you.